Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Shirley Lee. I'm an associate professor from Department of Psychology at the University of Hong Kong. I'm also a clinical psychologist by training. So today, I'm going to share with you some of our work on sleep, especially in young people. So the topic of our talk today is how can we overcome barriers to better sleep for young people? So to start, just to mention that today, apart from myself, I have also invited our undergraduate student, Adrian, to share with you our recent innovative participative approach of engaging youth in the community. So there will be two parts. The first part, I will talk about some of the background, and then followed by Adrian sharing with you about our recent work in the community. Okay, so I would like to invite you to do polling together just to understand a bit more about your preference. I'm glad that you're here, so that means you care about sleep. Otherwise, you probably won't be here in the first place. Sorry, I just need to find a better position. So can you take out your phone, your mobile phone? And then, first of all, you can either scan this QR code or you go to the website menti.com and use the code here to log in. Oh, already chose. Not yet, not yet. I will give you different scenario and then you can choose, okay? So once you log in, so this is the first scenario that you need to make a decision. So I just want to get a sense what your preference is. So I will give you some scenarios for you to make a decision, just like a student. So think about, imagine you were the student, what will you choose in this particular situation? So the first one is, the scenario one is, it is 11:30 on a school night, but you have an assignment due early tomorrow morning. You are tired, but you worry that submitting incomplete or poorly organized work will affect your grades. So what will you choose given this scenario? Will you go to sleep and submit whatever you have right now, or you decide to stay up until it's fully finished? This is a difficult choice. Okay, so it seems that the majority of you will choose staying up until it's finished. I'm sure you're already you're all a good student, right? Making such an important decision. Okay, let's take a look at the second one. Let's take up the second one. So the second scenario is, it is now 11 o'clock. Your group project presentation is tomorrow. One teammate has just uploaded her part. Sounds familiar, right? If you have experienced that before, but it still needs some editing. The group chat is active and everyone is asking you to help fix the slides. It may need some time for you to edit the slides. So what will you do? Will you decide to just log off, just leave it like that, go to sleep, or stay online to help the group to get through the whole thing together? Okay. So what would be your decision? Okay. So it seems like most of you are very responsible. You and also you are a reliable teammate, right? So you decided to stay online to help the group. Most of you. How about the next scenario? So the first scenario is your friends are chatting in a group chat about something funny that happened today, or maybe a gossip, you know. You want to sleep, but you worry that if you leave the chat, you will miss the jokes and feel left out tomorrow. So given such scenario, what will you do? Will you say good night and go to sleep, or you keep chatting to stay included so you don't miss out? You know what they discuss the next day. Okay, okay. It's good to know that so most of you, at least more than half of you, are more likely to prioritize your sleep instead of like socializing with friends under these circumstances. So how about the next one? This one, okay. So this is the last scenario. I think even if you're not imagining yourself as a student, just be yourself. You can still make a choice, I think. So the scenario is, it is 11:30 now. Your whole day was packed with school, tutoring, activities, and family responsibility. This is the first moment you have had for yourself. You do not want to sleep yet because it feels like losing your only personal time, your only me time now. So what will you do? After a very tired day, you didn't have any opportunity to do something you liked. So now what will you choose? Will you go to sleep right now or stay away to enjoy some me time? I think that's the situation we face every day for most of us, right? Without being a students. Okay. So we have most of you voted. And it seems that most of you would choose to stay away to enjoy the me time. And that makes sense, right? Because you had such a long day, you definitely would like to enjoy some your own time to do something you like. But that means you have to sacrifice your sleep, right? On the other hand. Okay, so that's the last scenario. The last scenario is quite specific to young people nowadays. So this is a scenario where you have to choose about between gaming with friends or sleep. So it's 11 o'clock, you're playing an online game with your friends, your team is close to winning, and everyone say, one more round. You know, one more round means, okay, sleeping at 2. That would take that much time because in order to finish that, you probably have it will take some time. Okay, so what will you do? Will you say, sorry, I gotta go, bye, and left the team, or you will continue because it feels fun and socially important? Okay. Okay, thanks for voting. And it give us some ideas about your preference, and perhaps that reflect the majority of young people nowadays as well. So it sounds so this all different kinds of scenario actually the real ones that the actual ones that teenagers have to, like young people have to choose, either because of the social obligation or academic pressure and etc. And that can kind of give you about the decision people have to make between sleep or doing something important, maybe more important in life. However, the topic today is all about sleep. So the first message I would like to deliver is sleep is in fact one of the essential pillars to support our health, just like healthy diet and also exercise. In fact, when we think about sleep, it actually takes up 1/3 of our life. we have to use that much time in sleep, that actually give you some idea how important it is. Because from an evolutionary perspective, if we don't need to sleep, we don't have to evolve to have such an activity develop, right? But now, despite how busy we are, we still have that particular function, that particular activity we have to do, that is sleep. And in fact, sleep support our health in various way. For example, it is important for physical growth and immune system. It's important for brain development and learning, such as memory consolidation. It is also essential for maintaining our mental health, and also essential for emotion regulation, social functioning, as well as our daily performance. So if you look at the function of this of our sleep, sleep is definitely not a luxury. It is a foundation for healthy development. But in the society nowadays, it is often deprioritized. If you look at the polling result we have just now, sometimes you make decision, you chose some other things over sleep, despite knowing that sleep is important for your health. So today we will talk about a unique age group, that is young people, school-age children and adolescents. So my focus is slightly my talk is slightly focused on adolescents, because that's where the age group that we are doing most of our research. So the outline of the talk today, we will first talk about normal sleep development. So just to give you some ideas how our normal sleep is from a developmental perspective. And then we will talk about some common sleep issues among school-age children and adolescents. And I will share with you some of our research work in the intervention and efforts to improve sleep in young people. And finally, Adrian is going to talk you through our recent approach, participatory approach to engage young people in promoting sleep health. So first of all, I would like to just give you some idea. I guess not many people know about this, but I think it's important to understand what controls our sleep. So there are two main systems that regulate our sleep. The first one is what we call homeostatic sleep drive, or process S. So that is our sleep drive or pressure to sleep. So the principle is very straightforward. The higher sleep drive that you have, the more likely you are able to fall asleep, because you are going to feel sleepier as your sleep drive builds up. And this picture here illustrates how sleep drive develop over the day. So as you can see in the morning, you probably have very low level of sleep drive because you just wake up. And as the day goes by, your sleep drive gradually increase. So maybe around 11 to 12, around that time, you have the highest level of sleep drive and you feel really, really sleepy. And that's the moment where you are likely to fall asleep because you have the strongest level of sleep drive. And the other system that regulates our sleep is what we call circadian process C. So basically, it's just our biological clock. So I guess some of you might have heard about that. Biological clock regulates various aspects of our physiological activities. And it's not just that we have a clock in our body, is in fact our brain. There's a region in our brain that can receive the signals and also send the signal to various parts of our body so that it can regulate the rhythms of our physiological process. For example, the easier way to understand that is what time we try to eat, right? So we usually eat breakfast in the morning, we are hungry around lunchtime, and then we are hungry around evening time. Maybe now you are hungry. That's kind of the rhythm that we have in terms of our appetite and our diet practice. And sleep is one of the physiological process that our biological clock regulates. And I know this diagram looks a bit difficult, but I will try to talk you through to help you understand how both systems regulate our sleep. So as I mentioned, we have the sleep drive, we also have the biological clock, and they interact with each other to regulate what time we go to bed and what time we get up. So as I mentioned, we have the process S, that's the sleep drive. So throughout the day, our sleep drive accumulate and increase. So as you can see from the blue line here, the blue line goes up gradually. And then at one point, it reached the peak. And that's the moment you feel really, really sleepy. And we have another process going on, that is this biological clock, our circadian drive, and that affects our alertness level. So throughout the day, and in fact, our biological clock regulate our alertness level. So our alertness level actually also fluctuate as well. For example, in the early afternoon, after lunch, you feel a bit sleepy, right? That's what we call 飯氣攻心, right? But that's actually our biological clock is affecting us. So our alertness level goes down slightly and then move up. So throughout the day, our biological clock affect our alertness level, and as we enter the evening, our alertness level goes down. So sleep most likely happen when you have the highest sleep drive and also the lowest alertness level. So that's how both biological clock and your sleep drive interact with each other to promote your sleep. So either disrupting your sleep drive or disrupting your biological clock can affect your sleep and thereby creating sleep disturbances. But for now, you just need to know that much, because later on we'll talk about adolescent sleep. You do need to know about the biological clock. So one of the questions we often get is, how much sleep do we usually need? If you look at this diagram here, so this is the sleep duration recommendation across different age group as recommended by National Sleep Foundation. So if you look at the diagram here, for children aged from 6 to 13 years old, the recommended sleep duration is 9 to 11. And then for teenagers aged from 14 to 17 years old, the recommended sleep duration is 8 to 10. And as an adult, the recommended sleep duration is 7 to 9, okay? I don't know how much of you have achieved that recommended sleep duration. Usually in my talk, at least half of them cannot, okay? And we know that sleep, if you look at the diagram here, sleep duration actually kind of decrease as we age. And also there are individual differences in sleep needs. So that's something that you might need to keep in mind. We're not achieving, we definitely achieve 8 hours of sleep, but there are some variations across individuals. So some people may be naturally short sleep duration. So they're fine with maybe 6 hours of sleep. They can still function during the day. But there are some other people who prefer longer sleep duration. They may need like 9 hours of sleep in order to feel better the next day. So the optimum sleep duration is based on individual. So you have to explore whether you can function well with certain amount of sleep. And as I mentioned, sleep change as we age. So this is a clock that show you the sleep patterns across different age group. So if you look at the middle circle here, the purple one, this reflects infant sleep. So we know that infants actually have polyphasic sleep, meaning that they have multiple sleep episodes throughout the day. But as we age, as we become toddler, children, and adults, our sleep gradually consolidates at nighttime. So we only have one particular sleep episode. At night. I don't know why this pointer, can you see? Oh, okay, I will just use the pointer here, the mouse here. So one thing you might need to notice is that, so the brown one, number 5 here, is referred to the sleep pattern for adolescents. If you look at the sleep pattern for adolescents as compared to other age group, you can see that as compared to number 4, which is referred to sleep pattern for children's, adolescents tend to have later bedtime. Okay. Also, as compared to adult, they tend to have later bedtime, and as we age in older adults, we tend to our biological clock actually change again. So there is a tendency as we age, becoming older adult, we tend to have slightly earlier bedtime. So that reflects the age-related changes in our biological clock. So adolescence is a particular vulnerable period because there are a lot of things going on. For example, the biological changes and also various psychosocial challenges and changes. One of the biological changes we need to highlight here is the circadian shift. So as I mentioned, we have the biological clock to regulate our sleep. And during adolescence, the circadian phase gradually delay, meaning that they are likely to have delayed bedtime for adolescents. Sometimes it's just a natural change because of this intrinsic biological delay. So we may see that adolescents tend to go to bed later because they don't feel that sleepy earlier in the evenings. But however, even though they can go to bed later, they still have to get up earlier. So that creates a problem that is sleep deprivation because they have to get up earlier for school, meaning that even though they go to bed later, they get up earlier. So that creates sleep deprivation in some way. And also during adolescence, there are some other behavioral and psychosocial changes. For example, heavier academic workload, more autonomy over choosing the bedtime, peer influence and social media engagement, increased extracurricular activity, and also early school schedule. So basically, all these factors create a perfect storm, what we call perfect storm, for making such poor sleep for adolescents. So as I mentioned, because of the intrinsic biological circadian delay and also all these psychosocial and behavioral factors, we see that there are some common sleep problems in young people, especially for adolescents. The first one is sleep deprivation, especially weekdays. As I mentioned, they go to bed later, but they still have to get up. That means they are sleep depriving, right? And also irregular sleep schedule. So if you think about it, I don't have enough time, even for us, if I don't have enough time sleep time during weekdays, one strategy is to sleep more during weekends, right? So that will create that irregular sleep schedule or weekend sleep discrepancy. And also, because of a lack of sleep or poor quality sleep, adolescents or young people may have increased daytime sleepiness, and some of them may experience insomnia symptoms, which I will talk about in a minute. So this is a study we did, a study where we look into sleep patterns in Hong Kong adolescents from 2011 to 2019. So we look into the sleep patterns in two cohorts. So we recruited one cohort in 2011 to 2012 and another cohort in 2017 and 2019. So if we compare the sleep patterns across these two cohorts, we can see that there is a clear decline in the average sleep duration in young people nowadays. For example, across these 7 years, there was around a decline in 22 minutes in terms of overall time in bed. And there are also some more issues related to circadian and daytime impairments associated with sleep. So for example, there is an increase in excessive daytime sleepiness in adolescents from 25% in 2011 to nearly 38% in 2017. And also there's an increase in eveniness among adolescents from the prevalence was from 20% to up to nearly 29%. And among the teenagers in the last cohort, over 90% of them had the habits of using digital media before sleep. So that tells you the secular change in sleep patterns in our young people nowadays and raise the issues about their sleep health. And why do we need to care about sleep in young people? Because inadequate sleep, as I mentioned, sleep serves a lot of functions. And inadequate sleep can actually affect their cognitive functioning and compromise their learning potential and also daytime performance. And most importantly, inadequate sleep may increase the risk for mental and physical health problems. So we need some strategies to try to improve their sleep. So I would like to share with you some of our previous work, especially our research work in trying to improve sleep in young people. So there are different strategies. So one way is at a system level, we try to do sleep education or delaying school start time if we know that they cannot get up earlier, right? And then we also can do targeted sleep intervention to address the sleep problems in those vulnerable individuals. And we can also do prevention program. So let's take a look at the efficacy of all these approaches. So this is a study we did back to 2015. We did a sleep education programs. We recruited 14 secondary schools in Hong Kong, and all these schools were randomly allocated to receive school-based sleep education program, or they serve as a control condition. So in these school education programs, it involves multi-level, multi-modules, because we try to engage not just the students, but also parents and teachers. So if you look at the table here, we have different kinds of education. We did the talk in the format of the seminar. We have small group teachings. We distribute leaflets, psychoeducational leaflets. We even had a campaign. We did a slogan competition. We asked the students to create a slogan to promote sleep health. And also, we also have talks for the parents and teachers at school in order to promote the ideas of sleep health. So if we look at the data here, the intervention was successful in terms of increasing sleep knowledge because it substantially increased students' knowledge. If you look at the green bar here, which represent the level of sleep knowledge for those in the intervention group. So there was a substantial increase. However, despite the increase in knowledge, it doesn't mean that it can translate into directly translate into behavioral changes. So if you look at the actual sleep duration of those adolescents, in fact, when we look at the data, sleep duration of both groups, so both intervention school students from the intervention group or the control group, their sleep duration decreased over time, probably because of increased academic demands, but the reduction was slightly less in the intervention group. But the pattern is that the sleep duration continued to decrease regardless of the intervention. So when we ask the students for qualitative feedback, about 70% of them said the program increased their sleep knowledge, and 60% of them acknowledged that the program raised their awareness about sleep deprivation. However, only about 32% believe that the program could actually change their sleep habits. And when we look at the efficacy of the programs in improving insomnia symptoms, the program itself did not directly reduce the persistence of insomnia symptoms. However, if the students managed to gain some sleep knowledge, there was a reduction of insomnia symptoms, particularly difficulty in initiating sleep. So basically, the findings suggest that support the efficacy or the effectiveness of school-based education on improving sleep knowledge. However, there seems to be a need for some other strategies to promote motivation and self-efficacy for behavioral changes for better sleep health in adolescents, because it seems that by education itself does not seem to be fully effective. So the other approach we try is to convince the school. So I know some of you are from school personnel. I'm glad you're here. Maybe you can join us in our next campaign. So the next project we did is try to convince the school and ask them, can you slightly delay your school start time? Because we know that the student cannot get up, not because they are lazy, because of the biological changes. The adolescent cannot get up because of the intrinsic circadian delay. They tend to have a later bedtime and later rise time. So we recruited 2 schools in this project. So one school agreed to be involved in the intervention. So if you look at these two schools, one is the control school without doing anything. The intervention school agree to adjust their school schedule. So both these two schools had comparable school schedule. They start from like 7:45 and ended at around 3:40 something. And we try, in fact, just to tell you, although this is a study I find very meaningful, just to tell you the background of this research, we try very hard to convince the school to delay their school start time. So from the beginning, it was probably like 1 hour, 30 minutes, and at the end, only 15 minutes. But that we try very hard because the obstacle came from various levels. So one major concern is that the school bus. If you change the school start time, that means all the extracurriculum activities have to change. And also the school bus have to change, the school bus schedule has to change, parents are concerned. So at the end, we compromise and try to delay, so we agree to delay the school start time by 15 minutes. So that school start from 8 o'clock. And it didn't change the end time. So basically, we just have to shorten the lunch time, and in order to achieve that change. So if you look at the baseline data here, so at baseline, both schools have around 7:24 minutes, 20-ish minutes in terms of total time in bed. And after the intervention, so the intervention lasts from October to March the next year. So if you look at the assessment and follow-up, students in the intervention group actually had a delayed rise time, slightly delayed. However, in terms of over total sleep time in bed, it was slightly increased. However, that was slightly increased. And also we noted that for the control group, their sleep duration actually decreased. So there was still significant effect in some way because one school had a slightly longer sleep duration and the other school had a shortened sleep duration. And we also found that the intervention resulted in better mental health based on self-report and also a reductions in emotional and behavioral problems in students. So basically, the finding from this study suggests that a modest delay in school start time can increase adolescent sleep, along with the improvement in mood and also behavior. However, we did encounter a lot of logistic-related difficulties in implementing such changes at the school level. So that was one concern. And moving on to talk about individual level changes, I would like to talk about one of the most common sleep issues, that is insomnia in adolescents. So insomnia is actually characterized by difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep. It's one of the most common sleep problems in adolescents. The prevalence of sleep insomnia in Hong Kong Chinese adolescents is about 40% in terms of insomnia symptoms. And if you look at the prevalence of insomnia disorder is about 9%. So despite how prevalent insomnia is, it is still quite often overlooked and undertreated. And when left untreated, it could lead to a constellation of negative consequences in adolescence. For example, somatic health problems, psychological problems, increased interpersonal difficulties, as well as, most importantly, an increased risk for self-harm and suicidality. So given the negative consequences of insomnia in adolescents, there is a need for timely assessing and addressing these sleep problems. However, if we look at the pharmacological treatments for adolescents insomnia or insomnia in children and adolescents, there are limited choices because currently there remain limited empirical data about the safety and efficacy of medications for insomnia in children and adolescents. And we know that currently there is no medication specifically approved for use as hypnotics, or we call sleeping pills, in children under age 18 by FDA, leaving adolescents to take to take off-label sleep medication dosing for adults. Currently, there is a psychological approach to manage insomnia. That is what we call cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. This is a collection of separate intervention that targets behavioral, cognitive, and physiological perpetuating factors of insomnia. So it consists of a collection of therapeutic elements, for example, stimulus control, sleep restriction, relaxation training, cognitive therapy, and also sleep hygiene education. So in clinical practice, we may deliver the intervention perhaps focusing on specific strategy, that is behavioral strategies, or we deliver the intervention in a combination with the cognitive as well as behavioral strategies. However, by just providing sleep hygiene education alone may not be effective to treat chronic insomnia. So that's one thing you might need to know. And currently, several professional bodies have recommended cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia as the first line or initial treatment for managing insomnia in adults. Only if the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia doesn't work, the clinician may discuss with the patient to think about alternatives, that is pharmacological therapy. So our research team has conducted a series of studies to show the efficacy of CBT for insomnia in adolescents. For example, in this particular study, which was led by my former PhD student, Dr. Rachel Cheng, we test the effect of email delivery versus face-to-face group CBT for insomnia in youth. In this trial, we recruited adolescents aged from 12 to 24 years old with a diagnosis of insomnia disorder. And they were randomly allocated to receive either group CBTI or CBTI delivered by emails or waitlist control. So in these interventions, we designed a package. So this is the email CBTI material. So basically, we decide a weekly PDF file to be sent to the students. And for each PDF file consists of the therapeutic elements from CBTI. So the content of this email CBTI program is comparable to the group-based face-to-face CBTI intervention. So as you can see here, both intervention, we got either group-based CBTI or email CBTI, both reduce insomnia severity as compared to the waitlist control, and it also improves the sleep qualities of the students as compared to waitlist control. And we also found that both interventions result in improvement in daytime sleepiness, general fatigue, and also pre-sleep arousal in those adolescents in the treatment groups. And the other clinical trial that we have recently completed is this one led by my former PhD student. She's here as well, Dr. Milo Sip. So in this trial, we try to modify our CBTI program because nowadays we know that there are limited therapists available, there are limited trained therapists available. So the question is about how we can increase accessibility or can we scale the treatment to benefit more people. So in this clinical trial, we developed a mobile phone app to deliver CBTI intervention. So in this study, we recruited adolescents aged from 12 to 24 years old with a diagnosis of insomnia disorder. And all of them were randomly allocated to receive either group-based CBTI or digital CBTI or waitlist control. So for this intervention, we have two formats. So one is group-based. Each group consists of maybe 5 to 6 adolescents. Whereas for the digital one, participants were able to download a mobile phone app to learn about to self-learn the digital CBTI program. So on the slide, you can see the layout of our app. It consists of 6 modules. User can unlock each module upon completing the previous module. So in each module, there are video, animation, there are text material that user can go through to learn about the key strategies in the intervention. The app also has some other functions like the the relaxation audios that people can listen, and they can also do the sleep diary using the app. So as you can see here, both intervention, in fact, we can see that the group CBTI was superior to waitlist in reducing insomnia severity. However, there wasn't a significant difference between digital CBTI and also waitlist control. Although you can see from the diagram here, the digital one also has an improvement over time. And during the follow-up, if you look at the diagram here, at 6 month and 12 month follow-up, in fact, the improvement of insomnia was maintained in both treatment conditions. We also noted a higher uptake of the intervention in the group CBTI as compared to digital one. If you look at the number of sessions completed, for the group CBTI, the average number of sessions completed was about 4.7 as compared to 3.8 in the digital one. So that may suggest that although the treatment may work for some people, the engagement may be an issue. So perhaps in future, we may need to consider therapist assist digital intervention instead of just asking our adolescents to use the app by themselves. And finally, I would like to share with you our another study. So as I mentioned, sleep problems are prevalent in young people. So if you know that, can we do something about it early on, right? Can we prevent it when they present with subthreshold symptoms? So that's what this study was about. So we try to recruit adolescents with a family history of insomnia and subthreshold insomnia symptoms. So perhaps they can't sleep for once or twice per month, but not clinically severe to meet the diagnosis of the insomnia disorder. And in this intervention, we deliver a cognitive behavioral program for insomnia as a prevention attempt. So each group consists of a few 4 to 6 adolescents, and the whole program was delivered in a 4-week period. So as you can see here, the blue line represents the control and the green line represents the intervention group. So this is actually, this diagram actually shows you the number of participants having the diagnosis of insomnia. So over the 12-month, basically the idea is that over the 12-month period, the intervention group was doing better in preventing the incidence of insomnia disorder. And also, if you look at a 12-month period, overall, the intervention group has less insomnia symptom as compared to the control group. So that suggests the efficacy of the prevention programs, which we may consider in future, because since you know that there is a problem, perhaps we can do something early on to prevent the negative consequences of insomnia. So now, we have evidence to support CBT for insomnia. That's efficacious. We know that. But do adolescents come for help? That's another question, right? Even if you have treatment available, can they actually come to see help? So in another study we try to do in Hong Kong, Chinese, in this study we try to explore people's help-seeking behavior for insomnia. So among children and adolescents with sleep problems, actually only 10% have sought help for their sleep issues. And if you look at the options they try, most of them, if the red bar here represents children and adolescents. So if you look at the red bars here, most of them would choose just let it be, nothing, doing nothing. In Chinese way, we say 顺其自然. They think I will just let it be and maybe it will resolve on its own. And in this study, we try to explore what affect their treatment-seeking behavior. So people tend to, or children or adolescents are more likely to get some treatment for insomnia if they also present with medical problems. For example, they have headaches, they have restless leg, or they have some other medical condition. That's the scenario where they're more likely to get some help for their sleep problems. And interestingly, we found that children and adolescents with a family history of insomnia are less likely to seek help. So initially, we were puzzled about these findings, or why. And if you think about it, and after some qualitative feedback, we realized that sometimes parents with like long-term insomnia or sleep problem, they just get used to it, and they will tell their kids, "It's okay. I have the same issues. You don't need to really do anything about it." So that's probably the way how parents affect their children. And this is also supported by our qualitative study led by my former PhD student, Miller. So in this study, we did a qualitative study and asked adolescents to explore the barriers and motivators to insomnia treatments. So among all these factors, so there were some different factors at an individual level or structural level, or maybe in the cultural context. For example, in Chinese culture, we tend to rely on traditional Chinese medicines over other alternatives. And also, people tend to have a negative impression about medication, so they don't want to get some help. They want to seek the doctors because they don't want to use the medication. And for students, there are also some barrier at the individual level. For example, they don't see their sleep problems as severe enough to get treatment. However, if you think about it, this group of people are actually have already diagnosed with insomnia disorder, but from their perspective, they don't think that's severe enough to warrant treatments. And also, participants talk about family opposition. So they said family were against that. They didn't want them to get treatments. And then some students also quote the reason of not getting help, that is because of competing priorities. So that's especially in our Asian context, students are very busy. If you think about the scenario that I gave you early on, when you have academic demands, you chose to manage your academic demands instead of managing your self-care, that is your sleep, right? So students are also doing that, making that choices. They need to evaluate their priorities, getting treatment for their sleep problems is ranked at the lowest priorities compared to other engagements. And also they talk about a lack of accessibility to intervention, and also the expected economic costs associated with getting insomnia treatment. So the message from this particular qualitative study is that I think there is a need for psychoeducation and promotion of sleep health, not just at the adolescents themselves, but also their parents. And also we may need to consider school-based programs or low-cost intervention that may increase accessibility for students or young people nowadays to get access to the treatment. So, I just gave you the background of our research, and now I would like to move on and invite Adrian. He's actually a Hong Kong student, just graduated. So he is in fact a key member in our team to lead this recent community-based project, and he's going to share with you what we did in this interesting program. Let's welcome Adrian.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Adrian. As Shirley just introduced, I was in charge of organizing and arranging our summer program, a summer immersive program for secondary school students 2 years ago. While this was a pilot initiative, which means what we have been doing is more like a trial purpose. We have been trying to model it based on our participant feedback, and I will let you know what we have learned from the program so far and what further changes we have achieved in after doing this program 2 years ago. We're having some ongoing modifications. So 2 years ago, in this iteration of the program, we had bearing in mind these are secondary school students, so their knowledge level, both in terms of sleep and or psychology, may not be very high. So we first equipped them with the basic introductory psychology and sleep-related issues in terms of our mini lectures, as well as hands-on workshops facilitated by students of different levels, undergraduate, postgraduate, as well as faculty members. This is an important element as we're able to capture their attention to various levels of teaching. It's not like forcing them to attend a university level lecture. We try to tailor to their needs, and throughout this 1 month program, we can absorb their feedback and know what to be adjusted. And on the other hand, we also have hands-on and experiential learning. And school talks, compared to school talks where they unidirectionally receive knowledge, we let them into our PSG or sleep assessment labs. We let them go hands-on, understand what are those assessments, if they are going to participate in studies, or what are the ways to understand their sleep. Sometimes we might not be able to teach them how the science really works behind it. It's not the purpose of those workshops, but rather let them have the opportunity to experience and to understand what our work is as researchers. In our international school participants, they might be able to echo more through their psychology high school or maybe IBs, while in local DSE curriculum, they, although do not have a psychology subject as apart from applied psychology, in the mainstream ones they don't, but they can still take that knowledge, take the experience, and through conversations with peers, friends, and family, share their knowledge and gain from our program. And finally, we let them out not only through their own learning, but try to spread the learning to other members of the community. That's why we have community engagement. We teach them, we train them, understand what are, let's say, active listening and effective communication skills. Teach them to our members of the community, everybody. So be it at home, at school, or of course, we brought them out to the streets and more like a mobile booth or mobile clinic session. We try to help our community as well. Finally, we have a 2-day design-a-thon session, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but the design-a-thon contest is a way where we ask them to create something. So I'll go to that in a bit. As I've just mentioned, in those 3-tiered approaches or many types of activities throughout an entire month, we bear in mind that we want them to co-create this project together. We want them to participate in our activities and want them to later participate in advocacy in their community. So that's why we would first teach them. We're sort of like training the trainer. We are getting these batch of ambassadors and helping them to promote better sleep hygiene practices, habits, and awareness in the community. So that's the second step. We also take note how it is important to engage the community to get their support. And of course, throughout our project, we support their interests as well. We need better sleep. We know they might struggle to find ways to improve their sleep despite knowing that they have to, as described in previous projects, right? And of course, throughout the design-a-thon or other promotional context, we hope to understand what adolescents need. We want their voices to be heard. So that's why we include them in those public psychoeducation sessions, not just asking researchers or research assistants to do those promotion. We want them to be the media of transmitting this information. So talking about the design-a-thon, you all might have heard of hackathons, where a group of people gather together to code a software or create a solution. Similarly, we want them to be innovative, to design something. In our particular context, it would be some health communication packages, such as posters, leaflets, and also slogans like in other school programs. But in this way, we want to engage them, use their own particular perspectives to design something that's suitable for their age group and cultural, let's say in a whole Hong Kong local context. So we hope to consolidate and transfer what they have learned from our 1-month program in the very end by holding this design-a-thon contest. We followed the WHO guideline in terms of participatory competitions, starting from, of course, having a steering committee. We engage different levels of academics and, of course, our youth stakeholders, and throughout the various designing process and disseminating it to the public. So this was a 2-day event at the end with involvement of judges from various aspects. So from what we trained in the program, we assisted or prompted them to investigate what are the pain points of the public, let them explore in the community, and finally disseminate their freshly designed solutions. So now I would like to present to you a short video overview of our program. Right. So this is basically our slideshow of what have happened. Allow me to briefly, very quickly let you know what we have achieved and the outcome. So they have designed something like leaflets and posters, as well as they're in the center. They are giving a 15-minute presentation each group. So we're asking them to propose the project. Let them understand why are their design elements, program elements, how are their perspectives on engaging youth. So this would probably in the future also inform how we implement our own projects. And they have made various posters and leaflets like these. We can adopt their ideas in future promotion as well. So I'm just going to highlight a few elements of the design. Of course, in this right-hand side, you would see that it's perhaps more colorful than a typical leaflet you would find. They are in English as how the program went on. Understandably, in a local context, we would also use Cantonese for better understanding of our majority of audience. But for this program particularly, it was all in English. But we are glad to see that they are able to design something that's according to the age group, able to appeal to them. On the other side, we have also given them sufficient, trained them to be competent in communicating scientific findings. So they're not only just saying we should sleep more, let's sleep earlier, but actually being able to disseminate and use some of our scientific findings throughout their own research in the two-day competition. In terms of our project outcomes, if we recall, some previous studies have found that their increase in sleep knowledge is unable to be translated into actual sleep behavioral improvements. However, here you can see that on the top right corner, a lower score on the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index indicates a better subjective sleep quality. So more students are in a lower score group from 5 to 11. So that means their self-rated subjective score has improved. They slept more, both in terms of sleep time and time in bed. But of course, we know we might scroll our phones in bed, right? So that's a bad habit. They know that's bad. But anyways, we can observe how their subjective rated results have improved after our program. And from their qualitative feedback, we interviewed them, collected feedback throughout the 1 month. It's not just at the end, but basically, firstly, they gained knowledge, of course. We educated them, we let them explore, ask our mentors who are experienced researchers or research students in the field of sleep and psychology. So they know different aspects of research and the scientific knowledge of sleep, as well as psychology. On the other hand, which is something that I'm most interested in, how are they motivated to change? Some mentioned a shock factor. When it's like a normal school talk or your lessons at school, you would just probably not pay attention. But when they're able to not just listen to our firsthand experiences, let's say in various patient cases or in terms of the latest research, they are able to talk to the public. They are talking to their friends. They understand how dire the situation is and the consequences. So they actually say they will try to get the recommendation. On the other hand, they know what are the skills. This is not a CBT program. So they are not necessarily having a particular skills, but they know the techniques or means that they can access help and accept help as well. So this is an important change in their attitude. And finally, as I said, this is a pilot program. We try to do it in our space, but of course we also try and hope that they can spread their awareness, spread their influence to their classmates and friends at school, and of course, and family context. So it is important that they retain the knowledge and motivate others, recommending others to seek treatment or help. So after this 1 month program and consolidating the feedback, here are the main learnings that we have understood. So first of all, of course, it's good that we are able to use this community-based participatory program to engage our youth population and, of course, promote sleep health. We were able to not just promote better knowledge and understanding of the problem in terms of sleep disorders or sleep difficulties, but we also motivated them to have a change in their behaviors, both reflected by the surveys and their oral feedback, and be able to empower the community. Finally, we also understand why it is or how it is important to train this type of ambassadors. It's not just one single school talk. It's a longer process where we try to change their mindset and understand what they need through our continuous feedback loop. And of course, we need the experiential learning. It's not just school, like curriculum elements are important. We want to make them constant, repeatable or replicable. But of course, there are some things that are unique to doing it in a university setting. It's unlikely that they have a PSG or sleep assessment lab at school, but we can go there to make talks. So there are rooms for cooperation. And finally, we also showed on not just this time, but in terms of co-creation, we need their voices to be heard. It's never just like a government or the Department of Health rolling out a campaign. You need their input in terms of creating the best solution for them. So this is the end of the program. Just one last word. As I mentioned in the first place, we are improving or taking the lessons learned into the future work. So the project's impact is not just ending when we finish the program in July 2024. Two of our trainee students were given the opportunity to head to Tokyo in a scientific conference meeting where they presented their work partly facilitated or supervised under the mentorship program in our 1 month summer program. And of course, this is something higher achievers would try to do, but of course we aim to extend the impact after the program. And of course, just last year, 1 year after our initial program, we invited some of our alumni back to facilitate our design-a-thon contest. And so we try to make this show some continuity. And finally, in the coming months, we're collaborating with a single local school. So this time we're trying to replicate this model, closely modeled around the successful experience, but putting it into a school context. So I've mentioned there are some logistic issues that cannot be done in school. So there are rooms, that's why they're collaborating with us. We are looking for the support in recruiting or embedding this into their broader curriculum. So this is the future way where we hope to make this model, expand this model, recruit more students to take part in this meaningful program. And this is the end of my part, and I'll pass the time back to Professor Lee.
So sorry, we are aware of the time constraint. So just a take-home message. So from today's talk, you know that sleep problems are common in young people. Despite high prevalence and negative consequences, there are challenges in addressing their sleep issues, ranging from like individual level factors to like family or system level factors. There is a need for continued and joint efforts from different parties to tightly address the issues in young people. And as you learn from our recent work, I think participative approaches may show the promise in increasing awareness and also facilitate behavioral changes for better sleep health in young people. So thanks very much for your attention. So I just want to acknowledge our funding support and also my wonderful research team and our students supporting the summer programs. So because it's a youth-led program, so we have a lot of students involved as well. And if you're interested, you can also go to our lab's website. We have some resources where you can download and use perhaps in your practice or maybe at school, in school settings. Thanks very much. Okay.